It says preparing still.
Okay.
Well, and if it doesn't go live immediately, then Heather always does the recording. Let me just check on Facebook real quick.
It's good.
Yeah. Okay, great. Then we are live. Everyone, happy Monday. This is our last week of the book club. We have someone that I'm going to introduce to you in just a second. On Wednesday, we have Lee Bogar joining us. And then on Friday, Kelly Clark may be joining us. It depends on her schedule. And then we're going to wrap up the entire book club on July 1st. Mo herself will be here. That's going to be from 12 to 1. So be saving up your questions, your gratitude, your ahas and takeaways from the whole book. Mo herself will be here.
Wow.
Today, I'm so pleased to have Sherry Lewis, our Oklahoma Regional Director, with us. Sherry is just a phenomenal person in our region and the kind of leader that just pours into us and believes in us. And she's been a real estate agent for a very short time, 44 years. And she also has an interesting relationship with Mo. So I'm going to have her go ahead and talk to us a little bit about that. And then we can share some of the takeaways and things from the chapter, Building Relationships for Life.
Yeah.
Sherry, tell us a little bit about you and Mo.
All righty. Well, thank you for letting me be here today. It's such an honor. And I bet everybody says that comes on as your guest speaker. I did get into the business at the age of 23. I was just sharing that with Alex. So I have been a long time in our industry. And for several years, I was with the Century 21 franchise here in the Tulsa area. And Mo, of course, was also with Century 21. And I will never forget, I went to one of the regional rally type things for Century 21. And one of the speakers on the stage that event was Mo Anderson. And so I was sitting in the audience and she gets up there and starts talking to us. She already owned the number 3 Century 21 office in the country out of Edmond, Oklahoma. And I just was mesmerized. I kept looking at her. Of course, that beautiful smile and that beautiful face of hers, it's easy to get mesmerized, but I was just listening to her. And at that day, she became my mentor from afar. I looked at her and I said, wow, I want to be like that. And I want to have the ability to learn and to grow. And a few years later, not very many years later, she sold her Century 21. This is a lot of history. Many of you weren't even born when some of this was happening. She sold her organization to what was then the Prudential, Merrill Lynch. Merrill Lynch, the stockbroker, just wanted to get into the real estate business. So they went around the country buying out the strong real estate offices in various areas. And Mo was one of those who sold. Now, Mo, by the way, had been rags, riches. You've read that in her book. And so here she did. She sold her business for over $1 million. And that was a long time ago. And $1 million, well, $1 million is still a lot of money. But then it was really a lot of money. And then she stayed with Merrill Lynch, but then Merrill Lynch sold out to the Prudential. Merrill Lynch did not like being in the real estate business, so they sold out to Prudential. And the leadership of Prudential and Mo did not connect as well. And so ultimately, she was out of that business. And again, I had met her through Century 21. We had worked together at the Real Estate Commission. She was a commissioner, and I was on a task force for education in Oklahoma. And that's where I started really becoming more acquainted. Well, fast forward, while at Prudential, she called me a few times to try to get me to go to work for Prudential in Tulsa. And I had been with a large independent, John Houser Realtors, for 10 years, and I was very loyal. And actually, he was grooming myself and his son to run the business. Myself and his son. Well, so Mo kept working with me, but I did ultimately make the move to Prudential. We didn't see each other a lot. And then one day I get a phone call. And she was telling me about this thing called Keller Williams. And I said, no, Mo, I've made this move. Thank you very much. And that was that. Then I was invited to Edmond, Oklahoma to do a risk management training class at their Association of Realtors. And in walked Mo Anderson. Now remember, this is my mentor from afar. This is a lady I have admired, and I'm getting ready to train a class in front of her. And my heart goes, bow, 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 it's pounding. And she sat at the back of the room somewhat, had her head down, taking notes. And I finally got kind of calm with it. And then finally after the session, she came up to me and she said, Sherry, I'd love to have coffee with you. And so she drove over to Tulsa a couple of weeks later. This was in 1994. This was September of 94. And she drove over here, and we spent 2 hours in one restaurant and closed it down. It was just a luncheon restaurant. And we moved to a different location, and we closed that dude down too, talking about Keller. Now, Mo is pretty darn smart. And so she was just telling me all about it and all this stuff. And all of a sudden she said, now, Sherry, do you know anyone that might be interested in bringing this to Tulsa? So I don't know how many of you.
Of course she said that.
Yes. And I don't know how many of you fished or ever have fished, but I did fish in my other life. And here she had me. Wow. Reeled me in. And I said, well, yes, Mo, I do. And that was the beginning. What's been interesting about the relationship over the years is that I started out as launching a market center in Tulsa. I was at that time the team leader and the operating partner, and that was before it was doable. And we built the first market center in Tulsa from scratch. It was right before Thanksgiving that I said I would do this, and I could remember being at my brother's Thanksgiving Day, eating turkey, going, what in the heck have I done? And so that's where we started. I then opened 2 more market centers here in Tulsa in 96. And in 2000, I got the tap on the shoulder again. And she said, Sherry, it's time for you to come be my regional director. So for many years, I would go to Austin for meetings, et cetera, as an OP, as a new RD, and I would stay with Mo because we were saving money in all facets. And we would stay up literally to 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning talking. And her mentoring me and me sharing with her. And when she speaks to you on your last day, ask her about the purple robe. Mo Anderson would sit there in this awful old terry cloth purple robe. And about 3 years ago, I gave her for Christmas a cashmere purple robe. And it was more just to signify that memory. And so we would chat for hours. Now, that relationship was more, I could say, boss employee, because she owned the region. I was regional director. So at that point, our relationship was about me sharing with her what I was doing and her holding me accountable. And let me assure you, she can hold a person accountable.
I want to hear more about what accountability from Mo looks like. I got a little knot in my stomach just thinking about it.
Yeah, you should. And in every mile marker that we've established together as a goal, each time we reach it, and this is not being disrespectful at all, Mo would say, "Good job, Sherry. What's next?"
I can picture it.
Yeah, you bet. And so our relationship was that. And then we evolved. And as I had been her RD longer, it was a collaborative environment. I mean, it was always collaborative in the beginning, but the collaboration took a different level where we were really brainstorming and masterminding together. What's next for the region? What do we need to do? What needs to happen? And now I'm proud to say that after 20 years as her RD, I'll be with her tomorrow, by the way. And now we will still speak about business and updating her on the business, but we are now friends. And we are now, I don't know if I can say it without tears. I owe so much to her. I owe everything. I was okay successful, but she totally changed my life and my family's life. And I want everyone to, as you read that book, to realize that every one of you and I, and my goal today, my mission statement is on the day I die, that many will be glad I live because I positively influenced them through my training or leadership so they could have the best life they wanted. And she did that for me. And every one of you who are reading that book and taking advantage of that book, you have the ability to change lives every day, whether you're working with buyers or sellers, or whether you're supporting one of the agents, or whether you are an agent. And I see Kim on the call, whether you're supporting a husband who's in a lot of business. But the point being is that changing lives is what she's done. And the most generous. And honestly, I want you to know that when we were meeting, she was driving a 13-year-old car. And that car was as tidy and pretty. And she was living in the same home without the ability of remodeling. And she took a big risk when she accepted the opportunity to go to Austin and run this company. And I want you to know, and you've read some of it in the book, that she had a hard time because we were Keller Boo in some markets. And she was the one who turned our company around and made us start toward the path of Keller Who. So every relationship has its journey and its path. And you start out in different ways and you continue. And my respect for her, and I'm going to tell you, as you read in the book, she's not had an easy life. None at all. And I'm just honored that she found me. I'm just thrilled, and I thank God every day. In my grateful book, it's in there. I mean, when I die and my children or my son and my husband, if I pass before him, when they read my book, they're going to be great. I'm grateful for them. But many times Mo comes first in my grateful section. I've had to change that, though, just in case. But so what questions would you like to ask?
Well, and one thing I'm grateful too, being in the Oklahoma region, that you guys have formed such a partnership and a friendship. Guys, we're going to just open it up a few minutes early and just talk. This is Sherry Lewis for those that are just coming on. And she's our regional director, very influential in my life. I'm under her leadership and care here in Oklahoma. And you know, us Oklahoma girls are Mo's favorite. She loves you guys. We're her favorite.
We are. And what's interesting, recently I was having a chat with her, and she said, you know, Sherry, of course, we invite her in to teach Quantum Leap and what have you. And she said, but I don't have many invitations from others. And I said, well, Mo, we're all trying to protect you. We know how busy you are, because she's still very busy. And I said, and I too try to protect you. But I said, you're going to be on one of our regional calls real soon. And she is. But it's just something. She's still 83 years old, by the way, and still, in fact, today she's fully booked talking to people all over the country.
That's phenomenal. And she did share with us about her heart surgery. So yes, everyone here is aware of that. And this woman who's 83 has a heart surgery and then still just keeps going, and she can run circles around me. I'm 45.
Yeah, it's amazing. And she's already had a pacemaker, and she'll jokingly say, I don't know if it's in the book. I don't think it is in the book. She'll say, yeah, my years down in Austin gave me the pacemaker, you know, because I literally have watched her work until when I was staying with her. She'd come in at 2:00 in the morning, and then she'd be right back up at 5:00. And we would go in, and she would go in and then come back and get me. She was my transport. It's a phenomenal energy level and passion. And, you know, the interesting thing, and I think this is a great message for Alex as she's coming in new, is that if you find the love for the business, it's not work. And some of you will feel that. Some of you, yeah, there's times that it feels like we're really working. But if we find the love and the passion, it's not work. Yeah. It's people ask me, I'll be 68 Christmas Day, and people say, when are you going to retire? I said, hopefully never.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I was listening to there was a podcast with Leslie Peters, and she was talking about, somebody asked her the question, if you were to win the lottery, what would you do the next day? And I thought, okay, well, the next day I'd probably take my whole team and family and all my friends to Disney World. But a week later, I'm going to come back and do exactly what I'm doing. I'm going to log into my database and I'm going to find great joy in looking at the names and moving things forward. And it doesn't feel like work when you love what you're doing. Okay, so I have a question, Sherry.
Well,
What
let me
is,
pause you real quickly on that because I want to layer something else in there. I want all of you to know the wonderful opportunity you have of additional streams of income in our company. And that's that thing called profit share. And we as a region have so much room. I mean, we share over $2.5 million a year in profit share right out of Oklahoma. And we're the smallest, one of the smallest regions, us in Utah. And I just want everyone to be reminded that when you're working out there with a cooperative associate and it was a good transaction, just introduce to them the opportunities to speak. And I think everybody on here from the Norman Market Center?
nope, we've got a couple. We've got Nella from Tulsa with you. We've got Wendy from the greater Chicago area. Kim is out of Pennsylvania. Not Kim Mullenix, the other Kim.
Yeah. Well, the reason I asked is I was getting ready to brag on Stephanie and as being such a wonderful leader. And so now I won't do that, but I just did. But I just the love of the business. And I think I had another message. So now back to your question, but I just wanted to make sure everyone is very focused on building. I'm going to share with you, and I don't have that many in my downline because as a team leader, when I first opened, you don't. I just had my initial group, which was about 13 people who I brought in to help me launch. My profit share is well over 6 digits a year, ladies and gentlemen. It's doable. And it's never too late. It's never too late to start. So even if you're an administrative assistant or whatever you do, you have the ability to build your additional stream of income. I just really hope that people will think about that. Anyway, your question, sweetness.
Well, and like, we're just going to squirrel this whole time. So, well, I won a KW Cares auction. I got to have a few hours by myself with Mo in her home.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. I felt like I was the most important person on the planet. We spent an hour just talking about my family before we ever talked about business. And I prepared a list of questions, and one of my questions was, Mo, what is one thing you would love to see in Oklahoma that you don't think is here right now? And it was profit share. She said, Missy, there is not one person in Oklahoma just nailing it on profit share.
Yeah, yeah. The highest associate earner is Dennis Nevius. And part of the reason is Mo was in a position when I came aboard to place me in his line. And so he's reaped the benefit. And yeah. And he had brought the office to her for Edmond. And so she felt the desire to honor him. And so she chose to let him be my sponsor. And I don't know if you guys noticed, but every year when he crosses stage to pick up his plaque for profit share earner, he whispers in my ear, "Thank you, Sherry." And, but you're right. Profit share is one of the most important things, and it's the truth. So, yeah. Yeah.
It's fantastic. Okay, my question was, so in this chapter specifically, Mo talked about the importance of getting her old girlfriends together, going to family reunion, and how you don't need to spend a lot of money to do those things. And just hearing your stories of your time and her time together, both professionally and personally, my question is, what are some things she did that filled your bucket and got you in deeper relationship with her personally?
The one that just jumped in my head immediately, Missy, was the year Susan Miller, who's also been with our company since 1995. She and I come within about a month of each other. She to be the team leader of the Central Oklahoma, which we often call Edmond, and myself stepping in as opening up the market center. And Susan ended up with cancer. And many people don't even know this because it's been many years ago. She's over 10 years cancer free now, thank the good Lord. And but when she was pronounced cancer free, Mo put she and myself and Jean Dunleavy, who was a longtime team leader in our region, and at that point, Linda McElroy, which is a longtime team leader of our South Oklahoma City Market Center. And she took all 4 of us to a beautiful spa in Austin for 4 days. And that is a generous thing. And that's when, of course, things had turned around for her and financially she could do those things. So I think that was such a gracious thing. Since that time, Mo has done several things. I just had my 20th anniversary as her RD, and we were at a Christmas event. And Stephanie, I believe you were there, and she called me up front. And she goes, well, I think you have hit your 20 years, and you always told me at 20 you'd probably be done. And so I'm just here to ask you. She had already talked to me, of course, and she said, are you done? And I said, no, ma'am. I'm going on if you're going to go on. So we went on, and that sweet lady handed me a lovely check, and she knows how much I love jewelry. And she said, go buy a piece of jewelry that you dearly love for your 20-year celebration of being your RD. And it was pretty tearful. And boy, I didn't waste any time too. I bought that piece, and I'm sorry I didn't wear it today. I'd show it to you. But those are the kinds of things she's been able to do. And I would say, I remember the day when one time it was in the purple robe on her couch in Austin. And I said, what's your biggest goal, Mo? And she said, I want to get to the place that I can give away $1 million a year. And a few years ago, I said, so did you ever hit that million? And she goes, oh, honey, yeah, I've exceeded that a few mil. And here's a lady,
Wow.
as you read the book. And you know what I say about her? She's often said, she's not the smartest. Gary was smarter than her, Gary Keller, Mark Willis, some of those people, she'd always say that. But what Mo had was such a heart and stamina. And I've seen her stand up as when I became an RD. I saw her stand up in a crowd where some of those gentlemen RDs and gentlemen, and I'm not being mean, we had a lot of just male owners of regions at that time, and they were pushing back on this female president, CEO. And I remember her standing in that audience and stepping up and saying, you will not talk to me that way. And Mike Brody, who we all have, as you get in the company and been around, you know about Mike Brody. That name he's iconic. And he's from the Dallas area. And he stood up and he took her position. And he said, this woman is working daylight to dark to help us. She had to shut down a lot of market centers. She had to do a lot of tough things. And she has that Oklahoma work ethic.
Yes. Yep.
We're a special breed in Oklahoma. We are.
We are. I know.
Breed. Whether you're from here or not, if you've been here any length of time, you're going to get that grit.
Yes. I've been here this is my 11th year. And it's funny because when I moved to Oklahoma, I was a little resentful. I came from Colorado. We had mountains. It was beautiful. And I met my husband there in the glasses and the beard. That's my husband.
Husband.
Oh, yeah, Steve. He's like, oh, we have such pretty things here. And he meant like a little trail around a lake, like not really. But I was resentful the first couple years. And then I just fell in love with the people. Oh, the people here in Oklahoma. It's like no other.
You know, it's interesting you say that because, again, I grew up in Muskogee, but I married, and unfortunately, I've been married twice. My second marriage has been 36 years in July. My first one was 12 years. And we lived in Muskogee, but we moved to Houston pretty quickly. And I lived in Houston for 7 years. And that's where I started my real estate career. And when I moved, then we made the decision to move back to Oklahoma due to our parents' health and things like that. And I can remember getting back here and thinking, I miss Houston. I miss the all that goes on there. And I had that same resentment for a while. And one morning I got in my car and I started driving around the southern end of Tulsa, which Tulsa is a very beautiful city for those of you who've been over here. And I found a hillside, excuse me, not a mountain.
Yes.
Found this hillside. I looked out, I go, wow, God, this is beautiful. And I'm at home. So you got to find your home with Oklahoma. So I had that same thing. Isn't that weird?
Yep. And now I wouldn't leave for anything. It's home. Guys, we've got about 2 more minutes. What questions can Sherry answer for you? Sherry, you are a natural filler of people. Thank you for being here.
Well, they have filled me for years, and I just love to see our people succeed. So let me shut up and please ask me a question. Make them hard.
Okay. I'm going to try to make this as quick as possible. This is real quick. I just want to thank Missy real fast before I forget, which I don't think I could, but I want to thank you for adding me to this book club for this book real quick, because I feel like this has set me up for success. Yeah. I've learned so much through all of this. I mean, I've been able to have the chance to meet people like Sherry, and I mean, I got to speak with Mo. That's such a big blessing. So I just really quick, I want to thank you, Missy, for adding me to this.
My pleasure.
Another thing is I wanted, what's that?
I just said my pleasure. I was channeling my Chick-fil-A.
So what I wanted to also talk about was what I got out of this book. I am not licensed yet. As you guys know, I could be licensed. I took my test last week and I failed it by 1 question. Okay, I beat myself up so badly due to that. I just sat in my car and I cried because I have so many people counting on me for this, and it has taken a lot. But I have, in this chapter, she talks about building those relationships. A lot of you, any of you, I have not met, and I have not met Stephanie. She called me one morning, and she doesn't know this, but I was actually asleep when she called. And
it was early.
It was early.
It's always early.
And she called me, and I was like, I'm going to take this call because it's important to me that I have this relationship. And it's people like Stephanie who, when I was doubting myself, she was like, no, you need to just get through this and you'll be fine. And my dad's wife, my stepmom, she sent me a card after I failed my test. And in the card, she said, while you're doubting yourself, some are intimidated by your potential. And yeah. And so
pretty cool.
Having these relationships with people and just keeping these relationships is so important. And I know that's not a question. I do have questions about profit share and all of that. So it has nothing to do with this chapter. But
Alex, I want to interrupt you just a second. May I? I guess yes. We have 2 real estate schools that go on here in Tulsa. 52% of the people are more fail it the first time. And some of the top producers in this city, one I could name right now, failed it 5 times. And she has made well over $200,000 a year ever since she got into the business. That test is designed to test memorization and not your skill set. And the test is not going to teach you how to sell real estate at all. It's just, so do not just pick that out. Get rid of that thinking and move onward. And that's
persistence.
I wish I had time to tell you about Gary Keller. Do I have enough time? 2 more minutes, maybe?
Take it.
I want you to know about Gary Keller too, because that man is and Alex, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I guess I just did. Gary Keller Many of you might know, maybe you don't know, that 5 years ago, 6 years ago in September, my husband and I lost our daughter. Now, this was his daughter, and I was her stepmom, but I was her mom. And I will share with you, I'm very open and transparent about this. This was suicide. And it was very devastating. And I heard from a lot of the leaders in our company, but I hadn't heard from Gary Keller. And all of a sudden, 2 weeks later, at 10 o'clock at night, I had a text from Gary Keller. And he said, Sherry, I've held off making contact with you. I understand the circumstances of your daughter's death, and I want to share something with you. Now, for those of you who know and see, everything Gary Keller signs off on with is onward. And I had always loved that, but I didn't know. So that night, he wrote me in his text, I was in a very low point of my life. And I was thinking some pretty ugly thoughts. And I received a phone call from one of my best friends. And we were talking. And he said, well, Gary, here's no doubt you've hit rock bottom. So I guess the only way you have to go, my friend, is onward. And he said, that word hit me. And that word stuck out. And he said, I wanted to share that with you. Your only way to go now is onward.
Wow.
And that could apply to someone failing a test. It can apply to someone losing someone very close. It can apply to any kind of challenge we have in life. And hopefully all of you. So I just wanted to share that part of our leader, Gary Keller, as well. So.
Well, Sherry, thank you so much for being here, for pouring into us, for pouring into Alex. One thing I love so, so much is being in relationship with Alex and knowing that anybody, Stephanie, you, Mo, anyone will pour into her and welcome her to our Oklahoma family. Wendy, it's good to see your face. Kim, I'm glad you got your FaceTime to work and we can see your face there. Guys, we'll be here with Lee Bogar on Wednesday to discuss chapter 19, which is, don't laugh at me here, Accept that you will be tested. Lee is going to share some of her experiences, some things that she and Joe have experienced throughout their life. So it's going to be powerful. And thanks again for being here. Sherry, thank you.
My pleasure, everybody. I will see you soon, I hope. Bye.
Bye.